Hello, good people. My name is Bianca and I'm your host. And as I mentioned during the week, today we have a special episode where we are focusing on neurodiversity. And joining me today in the studio is the beautiful and talented Bongiwe.
Thank you, Bianca, for having me. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, mummies and daddies. My name is Bongiwe Liepile, a proud mother of a 5-year-old autistic boy. I'm here to give my insight and my 2 cents in this topic of neurodivergent. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to see you. I'm glad we are doing this because when I reached out to you, I was like, we need this.
Yeah.
We need this, especially the circumstances that we met. It was on a post where I saw a lot of mummies breaking down and saying, you know what, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot.
Alright, so without wasting so much time, guys, we are going to introduce to you what we call neurodiversity. So, neurodivergent refers to a person on a spectrum. It simply means that the brain information is processed in a different way
Yes.
from the normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can explain on that, Bono.
Okay, so what it simply means is that there is 2 types of brains. There is neurotypical, which is seen as a normal person's brain, how it's actually wired and how it functions. And then there's neurodivergent, which is your autistic brains, your ADHD brains. So it simply means that their wiring and how they receive information is totally different.
That's perfect. Before I forget, this episode we are mainly focusing on autism, but just to give an intro because we believe we are going to be unpacking a lot of these conditions. Just to give you a bit brief background, like when we say neurodiversity, so we're referring to your kids with ADHD, epilepsy, autism, intellectual disabilities, developmental language disorder, dyslexia. I don't know if I have forgotten.
Yeah, I think your ADDs.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you've covered it.
Yeah, all those kids.
Yeah.
All right, so let us talk, Bonnie. Let us talk about what is autism. We are going to try and simplify this episode so that Amansa can actually understand what we mean, because I believe if we do the terms and specialist terms, we might miss a lot of people that actually don't understand what is going on with the child. Yeah.
So autism in simple terms is just the different wiring of a child's brain or a human's brain. So it's either they have your high functional senses or your low functional senses. So which simply means that with the levels of how the brain functions, some things will be affected. So there will be a development effect that happens on the when the child grows up. So you might find that, for example, your child may be slow to walk, or sometimes quicker to walk, because sometimes a child reaching their milestones fast doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing sometimes. So as parents, we tend to think that it's a good thing, only to find out at the later stage that it impacts on a child's development. So autism is just a different wiring of the brain and how they actually receive information, and also the sensory issues that they have.
And I think now it leads us to the next question, which is a borderline question, because often we're getting a lot of questions regarding, is it genetics or is it not genetics? Is it nature? Because now all of a sudden we have got kids who are being diagnosed with these things, and I think for the greater part I always say that I think we used to have these, it's just that we didn't have diagnosis.
True.
And when we were growing up, everyone was just put under the one bracket, special class.
Yeah.
But now we have got different terms to it. So from my own perspective, I always say that it has always been there, but it's just that now we talk about it more. So what's your take on that?
Okay, when it comes to what causes it, if it's genetic and stuff, till today there is no study which is 100% sure that actually this is what causes autism. So as much as they can say it's 80% genetic, but what the 2%, the 20%,
20%.
what's happening with the 20%?
Is it
Is
nature
it
or
nature?
nature?
Yes, you understand.
Yeah.
Is it so? Up until we get a 100% assurity of this is actually what causes autism, then I'll be sold. So for now, I'll still stick to saying we don't know what is the cause of autism.
From my own perspective, disclaimer,
Yeah.
from my own perspective, I feel like it's nature, and especially with COVID happening, and a lot of people got scared to go out, especially those kids born prior and those kids who were born after COVID. So I believe they missed a lot of milestones like interaction and uh, gross motor play dates, fine motor play dates, sensory stimulation. So this is just my own opinion as an educational psychologist. I believe uh, it could have played a big role. Now, all of a sudden, kids were now told, you know what, you can go out, but for 3 years they didn't experience that. So it's a whole new world. You meet new people. You are forced in a constricted place like a class. You have to have a certain order, and yeah, that's my take. But anyway,
Yeah. Up until we get the official
yes.
route on what causes it, because as you say that, it looks like now, because of now, you have parents who are vocal about it and who advocate for their kids. Now it looks like the diagnosis is only a pandemic now, but it has always been there.
True.
Before COVID hit, there has been someone who was actually autistic. There has been, I mean, if it goes back to your Einstein, when was Einstein born? He was born autistic.
Yes.
So it goes as far back as that. It's just that we didn't have an official diagnosis, we didn't know the name, we didn't have a term for it, that the child is actually autistic. We'll just say maybe the child is slow, or the child, there's different terms that we use, but autism wasn't one of them, because we didn't know that it actually exists. So I think because of the term was not there, or we couldn't name it, it looks like it's a new thing.
It's a new thing.
Yeah.
All right. Just to rewind it back, because I'm here as an educational psychologist, and we are here as a parent with a child with autism. And I just want us to rewind it back on your journey. Like, how did you find out? Did you notice anything? Was it people who started noticing something? Was it the school, if your child was going to school, that called you?
Taking it back, I'm the one that noticed.
Okay.
My son had a thing called a regress. So meaning instead of his development adding, it was becoming lesser and lesser. Mm-hmm. So my child walked before he was 1. Wow. He was talking, he was singing and doing everything. Wow. But up until he turned 2, then he started to regress. Even the words, his vocabulary became lesser and lesser and lesser up until he became non-verbal.
Sure.
So you can imagine, as a mom or as a parent, it's like I slept one day, my child was talking, and I woke up the next, my child can speak.
The trauma.
And now I cannot deal with it, because now I'm worried, like, what's happening with my child? And because of he's a boy, you get those things like boys are slow. He will recover. Yeah.
He will be this and
Give
that.
him his space, he will be fine. But up until I realized at age 3 that he is not getting better. He's actually getting worse and worse when it comes to speech. Then that is when I started the process of actually getting intervention for him. So I started with speech therapy first because the speech was something that was there.
Yes.
That was the one which was a big concern.
Yes.
So, but now that I look at it, he always had traits. It's just I wasn't aware because he's always been a picky eater.
Okay.
From being a baby, he's always been a picky eater. But I've told myself that maybe he's just a child. He has his favorite foods and stuff like that. Only to find out that is one of the traits.
Based on kids being picky eaters, this is something that I had to learn as well from one autistic child to the other. That you know what, because I feel like people who are not invested in this or who are not impacted directly, they've got so many opinions, and I feel like now the child becomes agitated, they become aggressive, not because they want to be that, but imagine even if you are an adult and then you go into a normal store and you tell them I want chips and T-bone, and then they give you chicken. And imagine that thing, you can voice your concern, but in regards to kids, especially who are autistic, they can't.
Yeah.
So it frustrates them, and I always say that when it comes to kids on a spectrum, do not force. Please, mummies, daddies, caregivers, um, teachers, nurses, everyone involved, the community, the churches, please do not force kids on a spectrum. Whether it's eating, whether it's having an outcome, I don't know, but do not force. Yeah, well, you can continue.
Yeah, on that part, I 100% agree with you. And people need to understand that autism is a spectrum. The reason why it's a spectrum is because it affects each and every individual differently. So my autistic son won't be like your autistic son. They may have similar traits, but they won't be the same. So also when it comes to picky eating, as a parent, you need to understand what causes a child to be a picky eater. Then that is where sensory issues comes in because of their senses, how they taste, the texture of the food, the smell of the food for them because of the information. As I said, that the autistic brains receive information different from a neurotypical brain. So how the message transfers to the brain of the food is different to how our brains transfer messages. So, and if something works for my child, it doesn't mean that it's gonna work for your child. So it's now you as a parent, you need to really get to know your child on a deeper level. And also the meltdowns that you're talking about, the frustrations that you're talking about, they are all caused by sensory issues. That's why I always say I don't like to use the word tantrum when speaking about kids who are on a spectrum, because they are not throwing tantrums. They're actually having meltdowns.
True.
So it's because of, you can imagine I'm trying to say something to you, but you don't understand what I'm trying to say. And I myself don't understand why I cannot say what I need to say, or I cannot understand how exactly am I feeling at that point of time. So that is also what causes the meltdowns and stuff like that. I'm not saying they don't throw tantrums. My son does throw tantrums sometimes, but I can differentiate between him having a tantrum and him having a meltdown.
Because with me, regarding to eating, or just to make sure that the kids that I'm dealing with can complete the outcome for the specific week, I have decided to use I don't know how to put this, what they like most, their attractions. I decided to use them as their strength. Like if a child is so good with cars, they love cars, then I create an individual IEP for them that involves cars. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing, that is to get the outcome done. But then there is another major issue that parents with autism face out there. That is the financial constraints. And you have to move from, I think when you get a call, because usually you said you found it by yourself, but usually some parents they are called by the school that, you know what, we think there is something wrong with the child. They are not sitting still, they are affected by noise, etc., etc. So can you please look into it? And when I feel like when schools give you that later, it just feels like a walk in the park. And then you get there and it's a whole lot of bills. How did you maneuver that? The speech therapist, occupational therapist, developmental ped.
Because as I said, because I've noticed the speech delay, I started with the speech therapist, and I went private. Because another thing is, it's very expensive raising a child with autism because they don't attend only one therapy. They attend from two upwards, and they need to attend it on a regular basis.
Okay.
So I started with a speech therapist, and when I got there, he got assessed and he got everything. But he was firstly, I was firstly told that he is only speech delayed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they didn't pick up on his autistic traits, which is another thing that parents need to do, because kids behave differently when they're in a new environment than when they're at home.
True.
So you need to be transparent and speak to your therapist, because sometimes they miss things because their child is not acting at that time. So when I went on my third session, that is when I started to ask the speech therapist. I'm like, my son has this thing that he does with his voice. As much as he doesn't have speech, but he hums. Randomly, he will just hum, and I don't understand what is this humming. And it doesn't sound like he is singing. Then he was like, then the therapist was like, oh, that is part. It can be part of autism. I was like, how? And then they were like, it sounds stimming. I was like, what is sound stimming? Because I was so cool. Because I didn't know about autism up until I had an autistic child myself.
Oh.
I had no clue about autism. Then that is when she referred me to an occupational therapist first. Then I started the journey with an occupational therapist. Still doing the speech, now I added an occupational therapist on top. Then the occupational therapist did the session, everything, and said, okay, I'm suspecting that the child might be autistic, but I cannot give you a diagnosis because I cannot diagnose. Now I need to refer you to, to a development pediatrician.
But I think that is where most of us get into trouble, because when you are studying towards your qualification, you learn about all these things. So I think I often get into trouble when I see that and I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with them. They have got ADHD. And then they'll be like, why did you say that? Because you're not qualified to. Or you can just walk in and like, this is autism, this is dyslexia, and then they'll be like, why are you saying that? But anyway, the system is the system. We have to wait for the developmental period.
So I had to wait and got an appointment and got the diagnosis. But also, I was also referred to another OT, but who does ADOS. Apparently, ADOS is a test that they can use also to diagnose autism. So I went to the PD first, and I got the diagnosis. And I also I wanted another opinion. I'm like, okay. But deep down, I knew.
You knew that there was something wrong.
That there was something wrong with my son. Then that OT also gave me the diagnosis that he was actually diagnosed with both autism and ADHD at level 2 autism.
And ADHD?
No, they just said ADHD and autism level 2.
Level 2.
Yeah.
Alright, now we want to get into the most sensitive part when it comes to dealing with kids on a spectrum, um, which is the society.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the society is not kind enough towards each other. Whether it's autism, ADHD, or it's just fellow women facing their own problems, I feel like the community is not kind enough, and the comments towards the mothers. And one thing that I've always told myself is when I'm dealing with a parent that any parent generally is to ask the mummies, how are you? Like, how are you really? Where is your mental health at? Because it's too easy to for a parent to walk in and like your child was naughty. Oh, you forgot to put extra clothes in your child's bag. Oh, you forgot the weight wipes. But through it or through dealing with kids on the spectrum, I've learned to have patience, to be kind, to be loving. So instead of asking, why didn't you put wet wipes? You forgot to do this. You forgot to put a lunchbox. I go home and then I digest. What could be the problem? And then that's when I send messages. Sometimes I send messages late, and then I'm like, I noticed, Bonnie, you forgot to put a lunchbox, but I made a plan. But my concern is, are you okay? And I feel like the society is lacking that.
The society can be cruel,
True.
can be very cruel. Because of we are quick to respond, especially if something is not affecting you directly.
True.
And also it's the lack of the knowledge. It's the lack of knowledge also, I believe. Because if you if you know about something, if you're educated about something, some things you won't react to them. So I will be honest, myself included. I used to be that lady who would see a child kicking and screaming there at the mall, but not approaching the parents, but I'll be like, where's the mom or where's the dad? And that would be the first question that I ask.
They're making too much noise.
Yeah, that where is the mom? Where is the dad? But now because autism has came and knocked on my door, now even if it's tantrums that you can see that this child is actually throwing a tantrum, not a meltdown, I actually have empathy now.
True.
Now I can actually say, oh, I wonder what is the mother feeling at this point, because I understand that so many people are gonna be so judgmental. So I feel sorry for the parents now that they're going through this, but only because of society. Because how will society perceive what is happening, or how will they look at it? So society lacks information. Society lacks knowledge, and we don't want to educate ourselves on some things.
No, they don't want.
I'll give you a typical example. One day, I went to, I won't name the restaurant, but I was in a restaurant with my child. Because of his condition, he cannot sit still. So I allowed him to just pace around the passages.
Yeah.
Came the waiter, and there was, there was a white family sitting opposite me. Then there was a black family sitting behind me.
I already know the outcome. My fellow black people, I already know the outcome to this.
So now, because of I allowed him to just pace, and I'm thinking he's not touching anyone's food, he's not engaging with anyone, he's just pacing. So it's fine, I'm gonna let him pace. So that he regulates himself. Because him sitting down, it might actually make things worse because he might have a meltdown. Because here we're in a restaurant, there is lights, there is noise, there is too much people.
And in the restaurants, there is a lot of
noise. So the family behind me told the waiter that my son is disturbing him. Then the waiter came and approached us. The white family who was sitting opposite, they heard it, and they were like, so when the waiter left, because I said to the waiter, my son is autistic. There's nothing that I can do.
Yeah.
Then that white family came was like, oh, your son is autistic. So I was like, yeah, also our daughter, we have a daughter who is autistic, and so forth, so forth, so forth. Okay? So we started communicating and stuff like that. Then the daughter came. The daughter was actually in the play area with one of the family members. So when the daughter came now they started to paste the whole passage
together. It's an activity now.
Now they started to paste the whole passage together. So now, then the one of the family members, the white family, was like, I want to see, and like he said it so loud, I want to see now what will this family say. Are they also gonna report us? No. Then they didn't.
No, that's an issue for another day, but
yeah,
they won't. But I feel like from my own personal journey as an educational psychologist, I think I told myself that when I'm going to meet the kids, because I don't know what the child personally, because for me it's the child, what the child is going through, what they have been through, how the day is going, but all I know is that they might not be able to express, but that feeling that, you know what, I used to have a teacher who used to push me away when I tried to interact or hug them. It has led me to, I always tell people that if you see me Monday to Friday, you will not realize that it's me because I'm in the worst clothes ever. I think one of the guys has seen me in the worst clothes because at the end of the day, and with that, I've had also people or fellow parents look down upon me, but it's fine because at the end of the day, it's the child. So when I'm going to that, I know that, you know what, I'm going to play. There's someone who's going to come with a handful of porridge and touch me. One is going to come with a muddy face and hug me. One is going to come and kiss me. So I have had to have that provision. Welcome back, guys, and welcome to the last episode of the first part of our series where we explore neurodiversity. We're still going to come with a lot of information. All you have to do is follow us on YouTube. TikTok will put everything in the description box, and Facebook, and then you can send us questions that you want to know, then we can answer them on the podcast. But before we close, I just want to mention that we do have an autism workshop happening on the 26th of October in Tembisa.
Yes. The autism workshop is for everyone who is involved in raising a child who's on a spectrum. So it can be mommy, daddy, uncle, aunt, nannies, as long as you know that teachers, as long as you know that you are involved in a child's life who has autism, you are more than welcome to come and join us. And it's a workshop, not an event. So which truly means that you are gonna get education, we are gonna be given tools, and our educational psychologist will be there to give us the one-on-one
I'll be there.
questions. You come, piece of paper, please, pen and paper, make sure that you bring them along. And kids are also welcomed. Okay. It's gonna be a fun play area for the kids. Meals are included, so it's only 250 per person. Adults, kids, they enter for free, never minding the age, but kids, as long as it's a child who's on a spectrum, can be 3, 4, they can enter for free.
16, I've got my 16-year-olds who are autistic.
Yeah,
also welcome.
More than welcome. So the aim is we're going to be having our ABA therapists there. So they're gonna be teaching us on behavioral, how to handle our autistic kids, what are meltdowns, what causes meltdowns, what are sensory issues, and all those kind of things, which I think they are very vital when raising a child who's on a spectrum, and it'll make us parents to be less frustrated, because we get frustrated because we don't know what to do,
How to handle the situation.
and how to handle the situation. So the workshop is there to minimize all of that.
All right. So in closing, I just want to say that, you know what, when it comes to autistic kids, these are very special kids, and I feel like if we look, you mentioned Aston earlier on, and one series that is on Netflix. As well as on Amazon, I think is The Good Doctor, where they do a special presentation of autistic kids, a visual presentation of autistic kids, and how they can be great, how they can how they can function in mainstream society. And I think it's a good thing. And remember, while we have five senses, autistic kids have extra senses that makes everything that they experience to be extra. So when you see them behaving in different way from your day-to-day neurotypical kids, um, it can be different, but just know that in as much as we are processing with our five senses, they are very special, because God gifted them with seven, and I know in some cases it's eight senses where they get to process. That is why they are intelligent, I should say.
Yeah.
That's why. And Bonnie, what do you have to say in closing?
So in closing, I want to say autism is a spectrum, and autism is different from one person to another. And also, just because of your child has autism, it doesn't mean autism is the end of the world. It's just a part of who they are, it's not who they are. So if you can have billionaires, multi-billionaires who have autism, then it clearly shows that a person with autism can actually be successful in life and can actually achieve the dreams that they want to achieve. It's up to us as parents to give our kids the good tools and the good guidelines. So I think if we have proper tools, then you are able to build a proper foundation for your child.
And we are also working on opening an support group for parents who have got kids that are neurodivergent, especially in Africa, in particular in Southern Africa. So if you are experiencing that, please do not hesitate to inbox me or Bonnie. Will put all our details in the description box, and we are ready to engage. We are ready to listen, we are ready to engage. Personally, I deal with kids on a spectrum a lot, as I'm an educational psychologist and I specialize in creating individual educational plan basing on each child's strength rather than focusing on what they can do. So yeah, guys, head over to our social media pages that we are going to put in the description box, and then you can engage with us more. And we hope to see you on the 26th of October in Tembisa. It's going to be an information-packed session, and we hope once we leave, you'll be a different person. I just want to mention before we close, I have had faith organizations asking me why should we be part of, and I feel like it's our first go-to therapist when we are facing so much and you don't understand what your child is going through. The family is putting pressure on you, the community is judging you, you need your pastors. So this is the perfect opportunity for the pastors as well to engage and know and learn about the emotional intelligence that you need to apply when one of your congregants come and says, you know what, I'm having this problem. So yeah, we hope to see you there. And just before we say bye, Bongi, any last words that you want to say?
Nothing much. Just want to say thank you for having me. Thank you
It's
for
a pleasure.
inviting me.
It's a
Thank you
pleasure.
for giving me this platform. It's always an honor to advocate for autism. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much. And parents, remember, just because of your child is autistic, doesn't mean that it's the end of the world.
And we are going to have a lot of these episodes. We're going to have a lot of campaigns advocating for awareness. But till next time, thank you so much, viewers at home, for joining us for this special episode. We are going to be back again next week with yet another episode on attention deficit hyper disorder. Until then, see you next time. Bye.